yes, there's been a bit of a week for the far right. I've actually just been checking. There's actually been pretty much a full week of the far right going all over the place. Let us just go through. There's obviously going to be talk about Zia Yusuf here because he quit on Thursday, and he's back again today, although in a demoted role. So we'll go over that. But let's just remind ourselves of what happened through the week because it's been pretty full on, really. I've got little images and everything. Look, so we started off with the. So I mean, last Sunday was the Polish, or last weekend was the Polish presidential election, wasn't it? But Monday is when we found out the result. And that sounded like it was a good one for the far right. You had the far right candidate win. It was a narrow. It was what, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's like Brexit, really, wasn't it? Except this was even tighter. A narrow vote that huge ramifications, absolutely huge. Had the Liberal candidate won, then Poland would be taking its place, as a driving force in Europe against Russia. Now, I mean, Tusk is obviously still going to try and play that role, but now there's a pro-Trump and therefore pro-Putin president who, although it's a largely ceremonial role, can basically veto a lot of legislation. In theory, the Polish parliament can ram things through the president because the president's not really got much of a role in government. But you need the numbers for it. A simple majority is not enough. So Tusk hasn't got the numbers. So you're basically going to end up with a hobbled Polish government here. And it's why I say as well, when people talk about the fact, there's Republicans in Britain, not Republicans in the GOP sense, but you know what I mean, people who want Britain to become a republic. And they talk about an elected president. And one of my warnings is be careful what you wish for, because the thing about an elected president, even if it's a largely ceremonial role, if you have very divisive politics in your country, and we do in the UK, if you have very tribal politics, you can end up with a situation where the government is blocked by the actions of that president. So I would just say, and the thing is, like, the advantage of an unelected head of state, a monarch, is they don't do that. They just carry out their administrative duty. Their role is ceremonial and it remains ceremonial. Whereas as soon as you're elected, you represent the people, right? So you feel perfectly at liberty to use your executive powers in any way you wish. But anyway, started off well enough. Then we went to Tuesday. What happened on Tuesday? Wilders pulled the PVV out of the Dutch government, which of course collapsed the Dutch government. So because his poll rating was plummeting. If you can sort of see here, I'll try and describe it. The upwards bit there, that's like after the election. And then it took them a while to form the government because it's a four-party coalition. So it actually took a long time to negotiate the government. So the PVV, throughout this process, riding high in the polls, where it started to come down, that is basically almost precisely the moment when that government formed. So as soon as that government formed, all went to hell. And PVV just started doing very badly in the polls. They wobbled a bit here and there, but very much down. I mean, I was told by some Dutch people that effectively he was just worried about ending up at he'll always win 20 seats, they say. And he was worried about ending up that far down. So he reckons he can get a bit of a boost by calling a new election. We will see. I don't think the left think that. Then Pronate there saying, except a ceremonial can't protect us. I'd rather have an elected barrier, even if it creates issues through party politics. You protect us from what? Because the elected role can be the threat. In Poland, the elected role is the threat. The elected role is the one that's pro-Putin. That is the threat. You've created a threat. You haven't created a barrier. You've created a threat. Whereas in this country, we do have a barrier. Because if you look at what Trump is doing in America, Nigel Farage couldn't do that in this country. I'm not saying we're completely protected from the excess of Nigel Farage. There's a lot he could do. But there are things that Trump is doing that Farage cannot do. Because everything, like, for example, the way elections are run. Elections are not handled by politicians, so you can't get party politics interfering with it. They're run independently. Anyway, then on Wednesday, do you know what? I've forgotten to go back through the footage and find out what... I don't know how to say her name. I don't know. Sarah, the new Reform UK MP. I got myself caught up when I was doing the video on it, and I thought, I need to go back on iPlayer and listen to what Lindsay Hoyle called her. Oh, I forgot. I don't know how she's pronounced. I'll just say Sarah, the new one. So she obviously... Poaching, is it, MZ? We'll have a go at that then. I have no idea, though. But she obviously came out with the burqa question. Now, preceding this burqa question, now I have to say, of course, you know, I mean, I poaching men. I mean, I absolutely hate the concept of burqa. It's a device specifically created to say that if women are sexually harassed or raped, that it's their fault for looking too attractive. That's what the burqa is. That's its explicit role, to stop women looking so attractive so men won't rape them. So it's a horrendous concept. But at the same time, you cannot tell people what they can and can't wear. Like, you know, we have decency laws. You can tell people that they should wear something, right? Except on a naturist resort, you're not allowed, or your own property, you're not allowed to go wandering the streets stark naked. Sure, so there's laws there. But in terms of what you wear, as long as it covers certain things up, that's you know, you can wear what you like, absolutely what you like. Utterly ridiculous that people who claim to be free speech purists are then saying what people can and can't wear. But anyway. They don't care about the burqa and what it represents. They don't give a crap about that. The reason they're doing it is because it's a dig at Muslim people. You know, it's just pure Islamophobia. Siri says porchin. Porchin? Right, okay. Really? Of all the 10 ways I thought of pronouncing it, that was not one of them. Never mind. Oh, someone else is saying poaching. Right, okay, I could believe that one. But anyway, so she starts all that row, which then causes, because of course Reform UK's party chair is a Muslim, and someone asked him about it, and he says, well, I didn't know she was going to ask that question, but he did say, it seems pretty dumb to ask the government to do something that we're not planning on doing, because he was saying, because what had happened was, Reform UK, like their press office, had been asked, is this party policy then to ban the burqa? And said, no, it's not party policy. So then Zia used to say, well, he didn't know whether it was party policy or not. But if it's not, it's pretty dumb to ask the government to do something we're not planning on doing ourselves. Whole to do, which of course resulted in like Super Thursday, where all sorts of stuff happened. Yusuf quit as Reform UK chair. And Musk and Trump had their falling out, quite a spectacular falling out. It's very difficult to say exactly how it started. Musk had been moaning about the big, beautiful bill, which I just thought was staged so that he could try and look as if he's got some beef with Trump to try and get his Tesla business back. But no, you know, it's no. Trump's decided he's a bit pissed off with Musk going on about the big, beautiful bill being crap. So he had a pop at Musk with the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, by him, thinking the hell's going on. I'm planning on doing a video about the way Friedrich Merz handled Trump when they were talking about war and Russia and Ukraine. It's very well done, actually. It was very well done. And yeah, Times are saying Zeos has come back to Reform UK. He is saying it. I've seen his tweet. He's tweeted it out. Or X'd it out. Tweeted it out. So I'll come on to that. So yeah, you know, Musk and Trump went hell for leather against each other. Then the next day, I thought Musk left stranded. See, the way it came to, this is the order I saw the news emerging, because it looked like they were going to kiss and make up, right? So I'd seen reports that the White House were talking about brokering peace talks, because Musk and Trump can each do each other a tremendous amount of harm. You know, even if their relationship has broken down, it's not in either of their interests to go to war against the other. Really isn't. But there's egos at stake here. So it looked like the White House were making overtures to Musk to say, look, can we, not have a public row, which looks to me like Trump backing down. Musk then said, that he was up for burying the hatchet, so to speak. But then Trump later on was doubling down on it. So it sounded like he wasn't interested in peace talks at all. It's calling Musk crazy and all sorts. And then, yes, caught up today, Zia Yusuf says he's coming back, but not as party chair. Now, here's the thing. And I'd done a video on this for tomorrow. I was getting ahead. For months now, for absolutely months, I have been like almost hand to mouth in terms of videos, so to speak. I've been doing videos literally just before they've been published. The way I used to operate is I would tend to be like a video ahead. So usually the first video of the day was actually done the day before and so on. So you have a nice little thing. And then usually by the end of the week, I'd sort of done my Saturday. So I mostly had Saturdays off, still to the stream, but mostly I wasn't doing videos on Saturday. So it's like a day off. And then what happened last autumn, where the views are like well down now after everything. And so it's like, there's so few topics that are going to do well that you're sort of leaving it to the day itself and picking what's best, right? So I was just starting to feel there's maybe a few more stories coming out now. Still a struggle on the views, but a few more videos coming out. And I'd got ahead again. I'd done a video for tomorrow. The first video for tomorrow was done. But it was talking about Reform UK's Doge programme, which they're calling DOLGE, by the way, DOLGE, Department of Local Government Efficiency, because they think that's clever. And then so then Zia Yusuf's coming back and he says, now there's quite a long tweet, but this is the bottom of it. I'm going to read it out to you. Given this, so he goes on about all the kind messages and all the supportive messages received, which, he probably has. Given this, and that we have now won power at a local level, I will focus on a new role. I will be running the UK Doge team to fight for taxpayers, as well as working on party policy and representing it in the media. Now, here's the thing. That's not a new role. He was already leading the Doge unit. Last Monday, he, Aaron Banks, chap called Nathaniel Freed, and a couple of other people, I'm not sure who they are, all went to Kent County Council. I think the other two people with them were actually new Reform UK county councillors, by the way. So the Doge team was there. So the Doge team was basically Aaron Banks, Zia Yusuf and Nathaniel Freed, right? So he was already leading. Now, granted, this fellow called Nathaniel Freed, who also quit when Yusuf quit, he was going to be doing the day-to-day running of it, but Zia Yusuf was in charge, right? So when it says here that he's got a new role, he'll be running the UK Doge team, he was already doing that. So what's happened is, a few days ago, he was the party chair and the head of the Doge project. Now he's just the head of the Doge project. So he's making it sound like it's like this stepping out of one role and going to another really important role. It's not. He's just had a role taken away. That's all that's happened here. Let's get on with some comments here. It says, I initially thought Musk-Trump breakup was a distraction, but when Musk brought in Epstein, I changed my mind. See, I mean, this has been, I suppose, in a way, bubbling away for a little while. And when Musk first started talking about not liking the big, beautiful bill, I thought, I mean, don't get me wrong, I said at the video at the time, I believe that Musk genuinely doesn't like it. I get that. I appreciate that he genuinely will not like it. But the criticism of it, especially given that he didn't criticize Trump, I thought was staged, particularly as Trump wasn't criticizing Musk for it. He was still being complimentary about Musk. So I felt it was just Musk, for strategic reasons, wanting to put some distance between himself and Trump in order to try and win back some of those Tesla customers, right? But, yeah, absolutely. As soon as he brought in Epstein and they started threatening each other, and like when Trump started attacking Musk over it, at that point, it's like, yeah, this isn't staged. This isn't staged. I mean, maybe it was to begin with and it's not now, but I suspect it actually never was and I just got the wrong idea. Someone will say, I just want them to leave Kent County Council alone. I would rather they don't bankrupt my council. Well, this is the problem. Now, one of the things I'll be talking about in the video tomorrow is really important. So, they went in last Monday, right? Yusuf pretty much straight away claimed they'd already found a load of waste. Now, how many of you have become aware of this? He claimed they'd found a £350 million contract for procurement of like services, like for paying for temporary staff and stuff. There's no such contracts, don't exist. The £350 million, as various people who are involved in public procurement have been pointing out, including one who wrote a piece for Byline Times, that's not a contract. What it is, so a council, like any organisation, right, sometimes you need staff, temporary staff, agency staff, whatever, to cover shortages that you can't cover in your own workforce, right? So you need to be able to hire someone, usually go to an agency or something, but you need to get someone to do that job, right? And you have to pay them. So instead of having to go, oh, we need someone really quickly to do this thing because so-and-so's rung in sick, you know, like I've done something similar when I've been a supply teacher in the past for bits. Same sort of thing. School goes, oh, so-and-so's off, we need supply teachers, get them in quick. Well, councils do the same sort of thing for their staff. So rather than having to go, oh, we need to get someone in and get it signed off by various people, really expensive process, lots of red tape, what they can do instead is they just go, look, you can spend so much before you have to fill in lots of onerous paperwork. And that's what that £350 million is. It's not money spent. It's not even money that's going to be spent. It's like a cap. It's like you can spend this for this purpose without loads of paperwork every time you do it. It's actually efficiency. The device exists to make procurement more efficient, to make it as cheap as possible. So Yusuf either doesn't know that, and neither did anyone else, remember, because he's announced this. He was there with 4 other people. So that means either he and the 4 other people didn't know how procurement works. They don't understand the process. They don't know what they're doing. And it's very probable none of them have worked in the public sector before. They're all private businessmen. They don't know how these things work. So either they don't know how it works or they do know how it works and they're lying. Either way, and this, you say that you don't want to bankrupt the council. Well, this is the problem. If they start monkeying about with things that are actually there for efficiency purposes and they remove it, you're going to make things more expensive. They could actually, with the councils they run, end up making just doing the same jobs more expensive and then running out of budget. I mean, in a way, if you're in one of these councils, your best bet is that this is just a con trick and that what they're trying to do is pretend to find sources of waste and then saying they can't get rid of it because the national government's blocking them. Right, so of course the voters now they're totally on it. They could turn these councils round overnight. They've worked it all out. They know exactly what they need to do, but their hands are tied, right? So you'll have to vote us into power nationally so you can see it happen. That I imagine is what they're trying to do, because otherwise the consequence is they basically do break those councils. And think about it, Doge. Why are they even trying to do Doge? Look what it's done in America. It's saved hardly anything. It's broken lots of public services that people rely on. It's going to kill a lot of people. And it's sacked a load of people. It's so unpopular. It's massively unpopular. So why would you want to replicate it here? You wouldn't, would you? Anyway, so far Reform have failed to turn up to the majority of meetings in the council they run, including Kent and Lancashire. Yeah, so I gathered. You know, and it is multiple councils because they don't know what they're doing. Like I've said, usually when you get, you know, you do sometimes get a bit of a change of, sometimes you even get a big change in the number of councillors. You've got brand new councillors there. But like if you suddenly had a load of new Lib Dem councillors, say, because they did really well, then because their councils were fine. Because although, yes, they've got a load of new Lib Dem councillors who don't know what they're doing, there are other Lib Dem councillors who do know what they're doing. So they'll just take the lead. So your established councillors will take the lead. Whereas Reform UK came from nothing. Some of them were former Conservative councillors, that's true. But even then, they're not taking advantage of their expertise. Durham County Council. So there were 3 people in the running to become the leader of Durham County Council. A businessman who'd never had any experience of public service, who actually became the leader, sorry. Darren Grimes, no experience of public service, who became the deputy. And then the former Tory council, who was experienced, got nothing. So the county council is being run and deputy run by 2 people with 0 experience. So yeah, it's gonna be a mess, absolute mess. Is Liz Truss too toxic for Farage's reform, like Yaxley Lennon is, but for different reasons? I would say so. I was quite surprised they were even willing to admit that they've been talking to her. Nigel Farage has said he'd been getting advice from Liz Truss, and he openly supports Trussonomics, and he announced his idea to do what Liz Truss did to the economy last week. I think it's mental myself, but he thinks he's going to get away with it. We'll have to see. But yeah, I would have thought bringing Liz Truss into a very visible role within Reform UK would be suboptimal. I don't think that would do them any good at all. They're welcome to try. It'd be an interesting experiment, but I don't think it would be a good one for them. Tories are going from bad to worse to catastrophe. Well, I did a video today. I think they've started to make a better start. They're starting to now distance themselves from some of the unpopularity from their time in government, which they need to do. I just look at it, they're not doing it quickly enough. They are actually, I'm not saying I think the Conservative Party will be destroyed, but it could be. It actually could be. In a sense, it already has been. Like, if it did merge with Reform UK in the future, it wouldn't necessarily be very much different to where it is now. It would be a little bit different because there are still some One Nation Tories in the Conservative Party. They're just weak. Not weak in numbers. They're just weak. They've got no spine. But they are still there. They think they're biding their time. I don't know what for. But I could understand it when they were in power. You don't want to rock the boat. But as soon as you've lost power, I would have thought that was the time to strike. And as early as possible. Actually say, that's it now. We let the lunatics run the asylum. It went badly wrong. We've crashed on the rocks. It's time for the adults to take charge. But they didn't. They didn't. So, although they still have a decent number of One Nation Tories left on their benches, proportionally anyway, they're all useless. All of them. Reform have already had to call 3 by-elections at a cost of at least £175,000 a time, plus £2.5 million referendum. So much for saving money. Yeah, well, this is the problem. Yeah, we've had numerous reasons, like people stepping down going, oh, well, I didn't actually want to, they were paper candidates, they didn't actually want to do it. Or people have gone, I didn't realise it was such hard work or something like that. It's mad. But it is what it is. Someone there saying, Vince saying, US government spending is actually up, not the $2 trillion ketamine was going to save. No, indeed. And it will as well. I mean, the thing is, the damage that they've done, you think about the cuts to weather surveillance. So, I said people in Florida can't get accurate information on where hurricanes are heading. It's hurricane season. They don't know. They're going, is my house going to be flattened tomorrow? Do I need to hunker down? Don't know. Maybe not. The cuts to Medicaid as well. That's going to kill people. The aviation, the cuts to the aviation, like air traffic control. I mean, it might not be resulting in planes crashing into each other all the time, but it is resulting in a lot of flights being grounded for a while because they don't know it's safe. So there's been a lot of delays in airports, apparently. Oh, it's an absolute nightmare. And the thing is, you can't just put it back. And that's the problem. That's what I'd like to try and explain to a lot of people who use their vote. You can't put these things back quickly. it would take a concerted effort. Once you smash something up, you cannot just... It's a bit like people now expecting Labour to turn things around overnight. You can't just, like, you know, even some like my old union, the teaching union, the NEU, sort of, they're getting an above inflation pay rise again this year. They got a decent one last year. They're getting another one this year. Not a big one this year, but they are getting one. And they're talking about striking. I would be dead against striking under those circumstances. You cannot allow the Tories to run the country for 14 years, then have a moan at Labour for not turning it around overnight. At the end of the day, is pay going up above the level of inflation? Yes. Is it on a trajectory to yes, it is. You can't do it overnight. You know, you can't just allow the Tories to win elections for 14 years and then, when you're sick of it, saying to Labour, put it all right now, as if they're Mary Poppins. One Nation Tories need a leader. Badenoch isn't that. They haven't got anyone. The closest they've got is James Cleverly, but he's too weak as well. Will I be doing a video about the Strategic Defence Review? Unlikely. Did I miss that? I already did one. I mean, if I was going to do one at all, it would have been strike while the iron is hot. It's not really, no. Defence issues, only very, very specific defence issues are going to get views. And at the moment, it's not even one of my particular... If you look at like areas of... It's an important... They're all important. There's actually not a single government department that's not important. Obviously, at the moment, it's of heightened importance. So I understand the need to prioritise it more than might have been the case in the past. But it's not one of my main areas. So because it's not one that would get a lot of views, and because it's not one of my hit videos, not as in assassination, but when I say a hit video, I mean a video where I take a hit. In other words, I know it's going to get rubbish views, but it's important. It's not... A defence review is not that. The interest for me is more practical impacts, and we don't know those yet. The review just says these are what we think are the priorities now, which is a lot better than a few years ago where Boris Johnson was being asked about our capabilities of fighting a war in Europe, and Boris Johnson dismissed it by going, there aren't any wars in Europe. Why would we need a capability to fight a war in Europe? Don't be ridiculous, you silly little man. And the person that was asking at the time was a Conservative veteran who seemed... I'm trying to remember who it was now. It might have been Tom Tugendhat, I forget. But it was a Conservative veteran who, as in a veteran of the military forces, not a veteran of the Conservative Party. And then they said... and they couldn't believe it. Are you mad? Do you know about Russia? You do know about Russia. You party with them all the time. And here we are. It was only a few months after Boris Johnson said that we indeed had... Well, we had a war in Europe anyway. But should we say a war in Europe that we had to, get involved in that was going to be on the front page news? If Trump's declining cognitive skills reach a tipping point, who will run the White House? J.D. Vance. He's the vice president. Who will really run it is another matter, of course. Could be Peter Thiel, could be Elon Musk, who knows. But yeah, J.D. Vance will be the president. If they have to retire Trump, impeach him for senility, if he has to be retired for senility, it'll be J.D. Vance. Or maybe Trump will carry on being the front man. Maybe it'll be a bit like a Grima Wormtongue King Theoden situation. Without hurricane advance warning services, insurance is going to be difficult, non-existent for poor folk. Yeah, all sorts of things. I mean, it's utterly insane. And this is what I want. This is what I want people to be aware of. I want people to look at what's happening in America and to recognise that, see, Farage isn't even looking to do the same things, but at least pretending he's doing it in his own way. He's openly, he's even using the same words, Doge. Even using the same words. He's actually saying he wants to bring MAGA to Britain. He wants to bring Doge to Britain. He's using the same names. they're not hiding it. So people need to be told what is happening in America. But anyway. Oh, someone's saying it's Tobias Elwood. Okay. Yeah, I remember it was a veteran who was asking the question of Johnson and couldn't believe the answer. What do you mean there's not going to be a war in Europe? American Constitution has an article for the case of an incapacitated president. Yeah, but someone would have to agree he's been incapacitated because he effectively already is. His brain's gone. It wasn't in great shape in his first term. It's completely gone now. Again, you just, you listen to him. And if you want, sometimes it's worse to read a transcript of what he says. Sometimes it actually somehow comes across even dumber when you read what he says. His brain's completely fried. But, he can still put his pants on, so they let him carry on running the place. Assuming he's running anything. Should AOC be the Democrat Party candidate for 2028? No. I think she will be devised American Angela Rayner. It's not even just that. The way I would look at it is, she might be too extreme for some votes as well. I don't know about that. What I do know is that Trump has fought 3 elections. He's won 2 and lost 1. It's not a clinching argument, but the ones he won were against female candidates, and America has never had a female president. And the one he lost was to a bloke. And yes, there are other factors at play there. Again, it's not a clinching argument. But for me, having a female candidate, no matter what their politics is, to me would be a risk. If it were me, if I were the Democrats, I would immediately be getting organised on who it should be. I wouldn't be doing things the normal way. I'd be immediately getting organised. And I would be looking for a bloke in his 50s, 40s or 50s, preferably 50s. And that's it. A bloke in his 50s. That's what I'd be looking for. Someone, someone like that. I would, because I would be taking the view, unless you can be absolutely 100%, given that the election was really close as well, and that the next, if the Democrats are to win it, it will also be close because there will be a lot of dirty tricks employed. It will actually be way harder. Waltz might be a bit old. I would stay away from the ancient ones. The Democratic governor of Illinois fits the bill. I don't really know them particularly well, but that's what it needs to be at this point. If the Democrats are going to win, it's going to be tight because they're going to be right up against it. There's going to be a lot of dirty tricks employed, a lot of voter suppression, a lot, and they cannot take any chances. They cannot take any chances at all. California governor fits the bill, but is from California. I mean, I don't think where they're from is. I suppose it can be, but at the end of the day, Tim Waltz is very popular. I bet the age thing. I would someone in their 50s, seriously. Say it, Phil. The US is too sexist to vote a woman in. I mean, I don't know that, but I am thinking it very loudly, based on the fact that no one, like, it's not like I'm not going to say that the Democrats put the best person in place, because I know they on every time put in the person who was going to best look after their vested interests, and that means because the Democrats need billionaires as well, right? They need to be bankrupt. The money in American politics is just obscene. They need spending caps. So they need billionaires. So I get it. They're not going to put up a Bernie Sanders or an AOC or anyone like that, right? They're not going to do that. because they want the billionaires to be looked after. That's unfortunately where American politics is. And yes, maybe you can do something about that over time, but in the here and now, the project is kick the Republicans out of power, including Trump. But you say Tim Watts is 61, that's not bad. I would steer clear of anyone that looks old. Anyone at all. I would just take zero chances. Zero chances at all. Because, frankly, they took a chance last time. They took chances they never should have done. They tried to have it all, and they never should have done. David, they're saying, I find myself absolutely flabbergasted at the cheek of someone who finds every means of avoiding paying taxes, then stand up as the taxpayer's champion. Yeah, though they do. The taxpayers they mean are the rich ones who also try to dodge taxes, though. That's what they mean. Waltz could have done 2 terms as VP, then 2 terms as president, and still be younger than Trump. Yeah, but Trump's just got this cult status, hasn't he? And they produce AI images of him looking really youthful with like military fatigues, even though he was a draft dodger. The worst thing for me about reform is what they say about autistic people and people with other difficulties. They literally, Reform UK are the monoculture. That's what they are. Absolutely anyone that has any special needs at all, and I don't just strictly mean special educational needs, but anything at all, Reform UK aren't interested in them. Reform UK are Tories. It's really this simple. They're Tories. They are extreme capitalists. They want minimal states. They want as small a state as possible. That means there can be no money for helping anyone. If someone cannot, survival of the fittest, if someone cannot manage in a society built for white men, if you cannot cope with that, they're not interested in you. Can you quietly go and die in a corner, please? Should Labour debunk the myth that boat crossings are due to ECHR membership? No one is defending the benefits of the ECHR against far right. So it's funny you should say that, because I should be planning on doing so. But yeah, they should. In a way, they do. They actually have. I can point to various times where Starmer and other ministers have done so. They're just not getting that message through to the public, and that comes down again to Labour comms. You know, I mean, you look at this last week. This is the whole point of this. The last week for the far right has been an absolute shit show, hasn't it? Absolute shit show. It started off well for them in the Polish elections, although I don't see how... It is still a madness to me that someone who is pro-Trump is good for the far right in Europe, because anyone who's not good for Europe is not good for anyone in Europe, right or left, surely. But they think it was a good win. You know, it's whatever emerges from the Dutch elections that will now take place is probably going to be a tilt away from the far right. That is it's likely to be a more moderate government. We will see what happens though. But in this country, I mean, you know, MAGA have exploded, Reform UK. See, even though Zia Yusuf has come back, because he's not going to be the party chair, it remains to be seen if Reform UK, because he has, very genuine, like people will think that Nigel Farage is the one who built Reform UK up. He's absolutely not. He's absolutely not. Richard Tice built Reform UK up, and then Zia Yusuf built it further after the election. Nigel Farage was just the front guy. Very effective. But Nigel Farage, if Richard Tice and Zia Yusuf, you know, if Nigel Farage had had to rely on people like Lee Anderson around him, Reform UK would be nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. You know, I'm not saying Farage has got no organisational skills. He has, but he has always relied upon others doing the nitty gritty stuff. He's not interested. He just wants to be front and centre. And so, you know, is there, you know, are Reform UK going to suffer from Yusuf no longer being the party chair? Because this Doge thing is a nonsense, by the way. If it's, I mean, I know it says here, because it also says he's going to be working for the Doge team as well as working on party policy and presenting it to the media. So he's clear, but he's not, it doesn't sound to me like he's going to be involved in the organisation of the party structure, just the party policy. And the party policy is going to be an absolute nonsense. Doesn't matter how well he organise. So it sounds to me like they're going to be, Zia Yusuf clearly has skills and they're going to be wasting them, because Doge is going to be at best smoke and mirrors and at worst actually wreck these councils. And the party policy thing, the policies, you know, it's not irrelevant in an election, but mostly it's the messaging that matters, and also your infrastructure. But there it is. Average Reform UK supporter wouldn't understand and explain unless it uses pictograms or crayons. I might have some pictograms. No, the core supporters, you won't get through to them. You can try. I've tried. But you won't get through to them. You don't need to, though. It's the same as in America. You know, people will say about, you know, you'll never convince the MAGA about this, that, and the other. You don't need to. You just need to convince the sort of more moderate voters. You can't win power with just an extreme group of voters. You won't change their mind, but you don't need to. You just change the normal people, the people who are just looking at it and thinking, oh yeah, foreigners have got too many. Like they'll look at stories about someone who committed some violent crime was allowed to stay in the UK because sending them back to a country where they could be tortured would be illegal, right? And they go, oh, but that's an abuse, we should send them back to be tortured type thing. They deserve it, blah, 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 blah. You know, rough justice. But what they don't realise is, no, it's they don't care about this guy's human rights. They care about yours. They're going to take your human rights away. And that's what we need to be able to say to these people. These are your human rights. And the way I want to do it is not just talk, because the problem with Brexit is it was all, if we leave the EU, these terrible things will happen, and they chose not to believe it, like Project Fear. I fear the same thing with the European Court of Human, or European Convention on Human Rights, is what it really all is about. But I think we can point to America, because no one else had done a Brexit before, so you couldn't really point to someone else that had done the same thing that had gone wrong. But we can look at America. We can look at the way Trump is abusing the rights, because people thought they were voting for him to abuse foreigners, immigrants, illegal immigrants. But he's not. He's abusing born and bred American citizens as well. Some of them, many of them are white, in fact. So that's what I want to do. I want to sort of say, look, this is what's happening in America to American citizens, born and bred American citizens, not naturalized American citizens. This is what's happening. And this is how the European Convention on Human Rights would have protected them if America had signed up to it. I've watched a few videos by Jimmy the Giant. Was he originally right-wing? Yes. Well, so the legends say. But yes, apparently he was. So he knows where some of the younger, shall we say, at least Reform UK voters are coming from. Not that there's a huge number of them. It's mostly the older ones. Vance will last 5 minutes. At least Trump has some charisma. Well, this is the thing. It is wondered if Trump had to be sidelined, how long Vance would actually last. Because, first of all, yes, he doesn't have that cult leadership status. So he wouldn't have the MAGA on side automatically anyway. Secondly, though, would he be strong enough to deal with the inevitable infighting that would occur? That would be interesting. Will he actually be a strong enough leader to deal with power struggles that would emerge? Because at the moment, there's an undisputed leader of MAGA. It's Trump. Undisputed. That's it. No one challenges him. Whereas Vance would become leader by dint of the fact he was the vice president, but he wouldn't become the de facto leader of MAGA. So there might be a bit of a power struggle. What would he be able to do there? Main concerns are obviously climate change. The ways it's going, pension issues are the least of my problems. Refuse to have kids so they aren't subject to the upcoming horrors. That's a bit of a grim way of looking at it. But I mean, it is. I do worry about what life's going to be like in lots of parts of the world in the next 50 years. I mean, the only good side of it, I mean, when I was talking to some climate policy experts this week, as long as we can get agreement between Europe and China, the fact that America's doing its own thing apparently is not a kiss of death. We can bring them back on board later. The important thing at this COP in Brazil is that Europe and China can work together. So we will see. What about Pete Buttigieg for president? I have no idea. All I know, I mean, they'll need other qualities as well. I'm not suggesting as long as you put a white bloke in his 50s up that they will win. First of all, I don't know how rigged the election will be next time. But they, of course, need other qualities as well. I just think don't mess about. I think there's a lot of prejudice in America. I find it difficult to believe. It's not that I found it difficult to believe that Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris could lose, because they both had their drawbacks. It's that I couldn't believe that either of them would lose to Trump. I really couldn't. And for me, there was a lot of confirmation bias. Again, I'm very well aware that correlation is not causation. It's not like we've got many data points, but I just thought after, Trump beat Clinton, I thought to myself, was this misogyny? Was there a strong dose of misogyny here? And then when it happens to Harris, and then when Biden beats him and then Harris loses to him, and you think to yourself, yeah, so Trump has, and I know it's tiny sample, but Trump has a 100% success rate against female candidates and a 100% failure rate against male candidates. And it at least gets you thinking, unless the Democrats have cast iron proof in the polling that the candidate being female is neither here nor there, I would say don't risk it. Fix America first, then start to look a bit more progressive. One Angry Pagan there saying a YouTube channel there, Political Fronts, put out a video saying that Trump could actually be saving the lib-centrists globally. It depends, doesn't it? Because, yes, we've seen some elections where the Trump impact clearly helped more sort of liberal part or left-wing parties in Australia and Canada. But then, I mean, Poland, it didn't help in Poland. It might have helped, but it didn't. The results still went to the pro-Trump guy. In Britain, I mean, I have supposed that because of the way Trump has clearly impacted other elections in English-speaking countries, when it comes time for our election, this is one of the headwinds I think Reform UK have got. The fact that they're so clearly very, very sycophantically pro-Trump suggests... And also, Reform UK are more sycophantically pro-Trump than either the Conservatives in Canada or Australia were. Because they weren't that up his arse. They're not like Nigel Farage. So I am thinking to myself that the next election will be either late on in Trump's term or after his term, basically at a point where I can see MAGA being stupendously unpopular in this country. And I can see Reform UK suffering from that association. But I'm not thinking to myself, oh, it's fine, no problem, we'll just wait. We'll just wait for MAGA to implode and then Reform UK will implode with them. I'm not taking anything for granted, but I do think that this obvious facsimile of MAGA that they are engineering could bite them on the arse in a couple of years. Not just so. Yeah, I don't actually know yet what Trump's impact is more generally around the Western world, shall we say. I would say at the moment he's not net positive because he's damaging the global economy, which is of course making it harder for progressive governments to do what they need to do. Remember, a progressive government, an economically progressive government, is the sort of government that's going to push forwards on green technology, right? Which is important for lots of people, even if they don't see the link. So you hurt the global economy, you hurt their ability to do that. The fact that he's also withdrawing military aid from Europe means they're also having to find more. So they're going to have less money because of the global turmoil. They're going to have to find more money to spend on defence, a lot more money. Something's going to give. And, you know, so it's net, what he's doing is net bad. Even if he did form a sort of reverse lightning rod to sort of turn people away from the far right, I'm not seeing enough evidence of it. The AfD, for example, did better in the German elections. They didn't, of course, form a government, but they did better. So they've been boosted. And I know that was largely Musk, but, you know, it's all connected. In Poland, it's, you know, it didn't turn enough people off the far right in Poland. So I just think, you know, it's unsure yet just how damaged. Obviously, Trump has not done the right wing any favours in Canada or Australia. Could the Lib Dems demand a referendum on rejoining if they form a coalition with Labour after the next election, or one just for the single market customs union? They could do what they like. They can demand whatever they like, and it'll be up to Labour to decide whether they want to do it or not. I suspect what would happen is you would, because obviously, I mean, it depends on where we are as a country. Like, if Labour think that the public are in a place where you've got to remember at the moment, the people, you mustn't get this idea that if we have a referendum, people will vote to rejoin it. At the moment, they absolutely wouldn't. We'd lose it. We'd lose the referendum. People will point to the polling. The problem is there's a lot of people putting out these polls deliberately, like, fiddled. The numbers are not as impressive as people think. The numbers in support of rejoining the EU are smaller than the numbers in favour of staying in the EU just before the referendum campaign, and we lost the referendum campaign. And the money this time will still be on the side of staying out of the EU. It will still be anti-EU. The money and the organisation will be anti-EU. Put it this way, if we were to have a referendum, like now, who would lead the rejoin campaign? Never mind political leaders, they're all unpopular. Like, where is it? Where's the group? There'll be three different stay out of the EU groups pop up, all with millions of pounds of funding. Where's the campaign going to come from to rejoin? Who's going to do it? Who's got the money? No one's got the money. So we're not ready. We're not ready for it. We need organisation. There's no organised group ready for it. You know, we have groups. You know, we have the European Movement UK. They haven't got the money to do it. They were around for the original referendum, but they didn't have the resources to put on their own campaign. Didn't matter that they wouldn't have been the official one. Leave.eu weren't official. We didn't have that equivalent. So European Movement UK are not resourced to be able to do it. We haven't got anyone. Stella Creasy could lead. No, she hasn't got the money. She hasn't got the money to do it. Who's got the money? I'm not that leader. I can't organise a piss up in a brewery. You know, Owen Jones, I don't think would. No. So we honestly, in all seriousness, we need to get organised first. But let us say at some point in the future, the public were ready for it. What I'm saying to you is, at that point, Labour would be happy to do it anyway. It'll come down to this. If you're talking about the Lib Dems saying, "Oh, we insist on this," Labour will either take the view that it would destroy their own voters, in which case they won't agree to it. And if that means they can't have a coalition, they can't have a coalition. They're not going to agree to terms that they think will destroy them at the next election. But if they think that actually the public's ready for it, then it's like the Lib Dems won't even need to demand it because Labour will be... Labour is pro-EU. It always was. But now it's like the leadership is as well, like that all parts of it are now. And it needs to stay that way. But at the moment, it's all there. So we have the likes of Femi, Stella, Andy Burnham. They're all skint. None of them have got any money. None of them. It's no good having some personalities that you think would be appealing. And none of these people are widely known to the public anyway. I could walk down the street. I mean, in Manchester, Andy Burnham will be known, right? In their own backyards, they'll be known. I could walk down Scunthorpe Town Centre with Femi, Andy Burnham and Stella Creasy, and I could just go up to people and say, do you know who these guys are? And they'll go, no. They're not, you know, they're technically celebrities because enough people, you don't actually have to have enough people know you to be classed as a celebrity, but they're not you know, they're not household names. And also you need more than household names because the Stay Out campaign will have household names. They will have household names and millions of pounds. Where's our millions of pounds? Ain't got it. Need it. James O'Brien, again, no one knows who he is. Okay, lots of people know who he is. People down Scunthorpe Street don't know who he is. I'm telling you. We haven't got anyone. You're just listing a load of people at Parcel Labour. We could have Stella and Andy for Labour, Ed David, Lib Dems, Gork and Heseltine for Tories, whatever the Green Party leader is. Plus maybe the Nationalist leaders too. They'd be all up for it, sure. They'd all be up for it. No one knows who they are. They don't know who they are. The key voters, like the people who know who they are, right, are already, you can already count on most of their votes to join the EU. It's the extra ones you need. They don't know who they are. And again, it's the money you need more than anything. You need the money. You haven't got the money. No army can withstand an idea whose time has come. Well, this is it. I mean, this is the thing I keep saying as well. Like, every passing year, we lose. I don't like talking about it. It's not very nice. It's not a pleasant topic. But we lose more Leave voters and more Leave supporters, quite frankly. And we gain more pro-EU voters every single year. Every single one. And as I said, this Parliament, if this Parliament lasts 5 years, we're going to gain 7 years worth of young voters. Because when Labour passed the law to change the age of voting nationally to 16, it already is for Welsh and Scottish matters, but when that's national, so that would also apply to a future referendum, as well as general elections and local elections throughout the country, you get an extra 2 years out of it. So between now and 2030, we'll have had an extra, or between last year, should we say, in 2029, which is the latest the general election could be held, we'll have had an extra 7 years worth of young voters. These things are huge, absolutely massive. And they're saying not a priority for so many people, myself included. Well, this is the thing as well. A lot of people, they looked at the political paralysis that Brexit caused. They didn't realise that actually that was just the Tories. That was the thing, you see. They looked at the Tories going, well, you know, the public services are collapsing because you're focused on Brexit. It's like, no, mate, they just wanted the public services to collapse. But the public thought it was because they were focused on Brexit, right? Now, to a certain extent, there was some of that. You know, when you take a load of civil servants and say, work on Brexit for me, of course, they can't do other things as well. So, yeah, things got worse because of planning for Brexit. And people are thinking to themselves, look, forget about Brexit for now. Deal with the NHS, deal with jobs, deal with housing, deal with energy, deal with this, that and the other. And it's like, you try and say to them, but if we were in the EU, all those things would be way easier. But they're not thinking of that. They're just thinking, we don't want you getting bogged down in Brexit. We want you to focus on the things that matter. And it's like, yeah. See, because that's the thing. People, the reason why Brexit doesn't have much support these days isn't because people saw that it was harmful. They just saw that it didn't deliver the promises. That's all they saw. They haven't seen the damage. Because when you try and point out the damage it's got, they go, oh, that's COVID, or that's the war in Ukraine, or that's like something else. You know, it's not Brexit. All people saw is it didn't deliver its promises. But anyway. Enviro policy is priority, I'm afraid, not rejoin the EU. That would be easier, though. Climate policy would be easier inside the EU. Because, again, I mean, look at it this way. In terms of greening our economy, what do we need? Loads of green tech. Who's the world leader in it? China. We want to catch up. The EU wants to catch up. Who's the world leader? China. So we basically need to buy a load of stuff from China. If we're going to really power ahead, we need solar panels from China. We need turbines from China. We need all sorts of things from China. Whereas the EU wants to catch up. The UK wants to catch up. The UK and the EU together could be a bigger research and development force for doing that, for creating more manufacture of green technology in Europe. All of these things become easier joining the EU, all of them. But people don't see that. Pete, they're saying, we're going to disagree on this one. Right now, I'd gladly give Scottish independence a bash. Could it really be worse, all the chaos and mess? You still have the chaos and mess, though. Because, like, domestically, Scottish politics can be its own thing anyway. You know, like the Scottish Parliament has an awful lot of power. It's not got complete power. And an independent Scotland, I mean, there's a couple of things for it. Like, first of all, Scotland raises less in taxes than it spends. So a newly independent Scottish government would either have to raise taxes more or it would have to cut spending. And it'd have to raise it by a lot, by the way. It's not a tiny amount. We're not talking a couple of billion. And the other thing is, well, just like we suffered economically, why? Because we raised trade barriers with our most important market. Scotland do the same thing. England is Scotland's biggest individual market. And yeah, okay, we wouldn't have to raise a trade barrier just because Scotland became independent. But of course, an independent Scotland would want to join the EU. That means joining the single market. That means raising a trade barrier with England. So, I mean, division for me, everyone is stronger in a union. Everyone is stronger working together. I accept that there are some cultures that are so violently opposed to each other that they can't coexist in the same country. So I accepted, for example, that Czechoslovakia had to divide because they were literally at war with each other. But if you've got people who can actually coexist, to me, you're much stronger together. I just want to say on the EU, it was 7 months too young originally. Don't want to be 40 plus before getting a say on the subject. But this is the thing. I mean, there are people now heading towards their 30s who didn't get a vote. So come the next election, there will be 30-year-olds who were too young to vote. So when we're talking about the fact, oh, it's settled because people had a vote, it's like there are people that are, at the next election, it will be the case that there will be people who are 30 years old. And at the time, remember, the voting age will be 16 then. So there'll be people who are 14 years into voting age. You know, they won't have been voting for 14 years, only 12 years, but still, and didn't get a vote. And that's the thing as well. You know, in 2029, the number of 16 to 30-year-olds, that'll be a lot of people. Millions and millions of people who none of them had a vote, but would get a vote in the next referendum. The whole position about that vote being settled becomes more unsustainable by the year. But anyway, I'll leave it with that. Thanks very much for coming on, everyone. Have a great rest of evening. And until next time, I'll see you later.